Ngokukhulu ukuzithoba masisukume ngenimba. With respect, may we all rise as we welcome the body of our late father and stalwart, Ubaba Andrew Mlangeni. Umdeni wona ungahlala phansi. Please remain standing for the singing of the national anthem. Thank you very much. May we be seated. Singahlala phansi. The Mlangeni family, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa. Honorable ministers present, MEC Lesufi, Executive Mayor of the City of Johannesburg, our veterans of our struggle who are here present with us and at home, the members of the African National Congress that Babu Mlangeni was a member of until the last time, those who are here and those who are at home. To all South Africans, we welcome you this morning as we pay our last respect to our father, to our grandfather, to our veteran of our struggle, the one who sacrificed his life to ensure that our country is free. I will now request, as we start our program, to have an opening prayer from the one who has been asked by the family to conduct. Over to you, Reverend.
Let us pray. Father, God of all consolation, in your unending love and mercy for us, you turn the darkness of death in the dawn of new life. Show compassion to your people in their sorrow. Be our refuge and our strength to lift us from the darkness of this grief to the peace and light of your presence. Your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, by dying for us, conquered death, and by rising again, restored life. May we then go forward eagerly to meet him, and after our life on earth, be reunited with our brother.
Now ask MEC Lesufi to come and welcome all of us here.
Program Director, Minister Togo Dideza, the Mlangeni family and relatives, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, and government ministers, Executive Mayor of the leadership of the Church and the June and Mlangeni Foundation, the leadership of the ANC Alliance and other political formations, veterans of our struggle, fellow mourners. A heart whose dreams gave hope to the weak and vulnerable has forever lost its beat. Gone from our sides, but never from our hearts. We gather here today on behalf of our Premier and the people of Gauteng to pay our last respects to our beloved father, a stalwart of our struggle against apartheid, a human rights activist, an organizer, a militant and fearless leader, an unending source of inspiration, and a role model to many. Here lies before us the body of a man whose thoughts have opened the doors of our liberty, the gentle voice whose measured words of reason shook the thrones of tyrants and dictators. His voice has been silenced. As the cold truth of this reality dawns on us, with each passing day, our loss becomes more difficult to bear. Baba Mlangeni lived a remarkable life, a life dedicated to the selfless service of humanity and to the struggle of the working people of our country. He was a just and a noble struggle. His was a just and a noble struggle, fought courageously and at enormous personal costs. Country struggle for liberation and democracy. He was despised by the apartheid regime, but adored by freedom and democracy-loving South Africans. His contributions to a new South Africa is unmatched. Hence, the ANC bestowed him with its African service for his dedication, commitment, and unflinching loyalty to the cause, a just, free, peaceful, and prosperous future. And our ranks have been robbed of the company of a unique revolutionary, an honest and sober comrade whose tongue was as sharp as his agile mind, a straight talker, a reliable defender of the unity of the ANC, a true. There are a handful or few individuals and Baba Mlangeni was such a towering figure. His name occupies a special place among South Africans for his unbroken service to the struggle against apartheid and the birth of a new South Africa we all enjoy today. In Baba Mlangeni, were the soldier of the People's Army, a leader of a glorious movement, a golfer of note. We stand here as the Gauteng government to declare that what we used to cherish has left us. What we used to celebrate is no more. Our hearts may beat, but the sound has changed. Our minds may function, but our thoughts are troubled. A leader amongst us has left this world. His heart has ceased to beat, thus leaving our hearts in pain. The pain is deep and unmeasurable. Some will also be scared to declare that Comrade Baba Mlangeni was a communist. We know why. They will be scared to declare that he was a true communist. It's because they don't make communists like this anymore. A true freedom fighter indeed. But it will be disingenuous not to state the fact that the freedom you fought for may lose its character if you can't act. The struggle you waged may tend to be something if you don't self-correct. That the sacrifices you made, if nothing drastic is done, may be fruitless. Never in the history of our struggle that our people doubt us. Never in the history of our struggle that our people, in their numbers, are unhappy with the behavior and conduct of some of our freedom fighters. Never in the history of our movement that our people are angered by our inward and self-centered approach to issues. The mistrust between the leadership and our people is growing daily. Never in our history that greediness and corruption preoccupies the mind of our people. In your honor, we need to let go of all these wrong things. You saw it, Tata. Instead of fighting for development of our people, we spend time fighting for positions. You saw it, Tata. Instead of fighting for the development of our country, we are surrounded by greedy vultures. You saw it, Tata. Instead of fighting for peace and prosperity, our women and children are killed and attacked. This occasion must be a signpost for a renewal of our commitment to keep alive the memory of Comrade Baba Mlangeni. It must serve as a reminder to our youth that our struggle for freedom was led by people with real depth of character. Our people must know we're led by people with personality and great sense of humanity. To young people, I present to you this morning a role model to emulate, a leader to emulate. While in the background and mobilizing our people, Baba Mlangeni finished he fought apartheid and studied at the same time. Unlike those who want to sleep, wake up, and sleep again, this leader never left his community. He just loved to talk about politics, go well, and strongly assure our martyrs that will resist with whatever we have its head to be something. Fare thee well, are ready to release you. We are releasing you because you played your part. To the family and relatives of AP, the shitile kudisha, sepela gabotse mtlokwa, ga di leboga, till we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ABC Lesufi. I will now request that we have the member of the family to give us an obituary of Ubaba Mlangeni. Asinikeze umlandu waleli qhawe esilibekayo namhlanje uma ungasondela ngaphambili.
Obituary of Ntate Andrew Mokete Moeti Mlangeni. The upbringing. The upbringing. Ntate Andrew Mokete Moeti Mlangeni was born on the 6th June 1925 in Matoding, later renamed Mainhartfontein Farm, outside Bethlehem, in the then Boer Republic of Orange Free State, now the Free State Province. He is the 9th of the 12 children of Ntate Matia and Mama Aleta Mlangeni, and belonged to one of the 3 sets of twins by the couple. He is the 9th of the 12 children of Ntate Matia and Mama Aleta Mlangeni, and belonged to one of the 3 sets of twins by the couple. He is the 9th of the 12 children of Ntate Matia and Mama Aleta Mlangeni, and belonged to one of the 3 sets of twins by the couple. His parents were farm labor tenants. His father passed on when he was 6 years old, and he was brought up by his mother with the assistance of his elder brothers. In 1934, his family moved from the farm to rented accommodation in Bethlehem. He moved with his mother to Johannesburg in 1941. In Johannesburg, Ntate Mlangeni stayed with his elder brother, Sekila, in Pimville, Soweto, and later at a makeshift settlement in present-day Orlando Township before he found his current house in Dube in 1954, which became his home until his death. He met June Johanna Leduaba in 1948, and they married in 1950. They were blessed with 4 children, 2 girls, Maureen and Sylvia, and 2 boys, Sello and Aubrey, who has since passed on. Education. He started school at the age of 11 in Bethlehem when he enrolled himself at a local church-run school and passed Standard 4 in 1941. He later enrolled for Standard 5 at Pimville Government School in 1942 and passed Standard 6 in 1943. In 1944, he enrolled at St. Peter's Secondary School in Rosettenville, Johannesburg, where he passed Form 3, grade 10 in 1946. He could not proceed beyond junior certificate because of financial constraints. He later managed to complete matric through correspondence with Rapid Results College while he was imprisoned on Robben Island. He went on to study with the University of South Africa, where he completed a Bachelor of Arts degree in Public Administration in 1979 and a BA Honours degree in Political Science in 1983, obtaining the latter cum laude. His law degree studies were disrupted by the negotiations at the Convention for a Democratic South Africa, CODESA, which began in 1991. Employment. Ntate Mlangeni took employment at Jeffrey and Galleon as a printing assistant from 1947 to 1955. This position benefited the South African Communist Party and the African National Congress communication units because he would sneak in on weekends to print the posters, banners, and flyers. From 1955 to 1958, he joined PATCO as a bus driver, a position he left because of his left-wing views against exploitation. The political life. Ntate Mlangeni was introduced to the Young Communist League by Mama Ruth First in 1944, where he worked with the likes of Mama Elisa Watts and Mr. Joe Slovo. In 1959, he became a full-time functionary of the South African Communist Party, as well as its secretary for the Johannesburg region, responsible for black groups alongside Mama Esther Parcel, who was responsible for white groups. He also participated in the activities of the Rosettenville branch of the African National Congress Youth League from 1944, where he worked with the likes of Joe Matthews, Tuma Nokwe, Fats Ngakane, and Henry Makoti. However, he formally joined the African National Congress Youth League in 1951 and the African National Congress itself in 1954 and became the longest-serving secretary of the ANC Dube branch, which he also represented as a delegate at the Congress of the People in Kliptown, where the Freedom Charter was adopted. He served in the South African Communist Party and the ANC leadership structures of the Johannesburg Area Committee, where he worked with the likes of Nelson Mandela, Elias Mtsoaledi, Alfred Khasago, Arthur Hlapane, John and Obed Motsabi, Dan Tlome, and Andrew Kunene. He also worked with Mama Ruth First to support the mine workers' strike of 1946, spearheaded by the SACP-aligned African Mine Workers Union under the leadership of J.B. Marx and Tlome. When peaceful means of expressing dissatisfaction with political marginalization and economic deprivation by the apartheid minority regime was barred to the majority, Tata Mandela recruited Ntate Mlangeni as the first Umkhonto weSizwe foot soldier in 1961. Later that year, he, together with Joe Kabi, Abel Mthembu, Raymond Mhlaba, Steve Naidu, and Wilton Mkwai became the first members of MK to be sent for sophisticated military training in China, where he and Naidu were specifically selected for advanced military communication techniques and manufacturing of explosives due to their advanced level of mathematics. During this time, he met one of his heroes, Mao Zedong, who gave him a message to relay to the African National Congress leadership that the ANC should bring a bigger number for training than it had done with their group. On his return in 1963, he joined the African National Congress unit of MK and became a member of its high command. His major responsibilities at the time were to recruit people and dispatch them for military training outside the country. It was during these activities that he disguised as a priest under the aliases of Reverend Percy Mukwena and Percy Mbata. Among the people he dispatched to exile were Joe Modise and Chris Hani. Ntate Mlangeni with Elias Mtsoaledi on June 24th, 1963, on the National Raid Day, and Mlangeni was arrested with Elias Mtsoaledi on the 24th of June 1963 on the National Raid Day and charged with the Zeerust group, which had been intercepted by the security forces in Zeerust after he had tried to dispatch them for military training outside the country. However, he and Mtsoaledi were acquitted from the Zeerust trial because of lack of evidence against them. Their acquittal was short-lived, however, because they were again charged in the Rivonia trial, together with the leaders who had been arrested during a raid at Lily's Leaf Farm in Rivonia, Johannesburg, on 11 July 1963, as well as Madiba, who was serving a 5-year sentence following his trial in 1962. Before the court passed judgment on him, Ntate Mlangeni told the court that, and I quote, "Though leaders of many countries throughout the world have tried to persuade the government to abandon its apartheid policy, and although the resolutions have been passed in the United Nations against South Africa, this has met with no result. All that the government has done is to reply to the people's demands by putting their political leaders in jail and breaking up their families." Close quote. He was found guilty alongside Nelson Mandela, Walter Sisulu, Governor Mbeki, Raymond Mhlaba, Ahmed Kathrada, Dennis Goldberg, and Elias Mtsoaledi, and sentenced on 12 June 1964 to life imprisonment. With the exception of Goldberg, who was detained inland, the rest were sent to Robben Island. He was prisoner 46764. He was prisoner 46764. He was released from prison after 26 years in October 1989 with the likes of Sisulu, Kathrada, Mkwai, Mhlaba, and Oscar Mpeta. He immediately became a member of the internal ANC structure led by Sisulu. He also served as a transport head at the African National Congress internal ANC structure. He also served as transport head at the ANC's Shell House headquarters after his election into the National Executive Committee in 1991. After the democratic election in 1994, he became the ANC Member of Parliament until he retired in 2014. In 2012, he became the chairperson of the ANC's Integrity Commission because of his integrity and ethical conduct. Ntate Mlangeni was passionate about the sport of golf, through which he made many friends. He founded the June and Andrew Mlangeni Foundation in 2009 to continue with the community charity work that his wife had started whilst he was still in prison. Honors and decorations. Ntate Mlangeni received the following honors. 1. Isithwalandwe siaparangwe. In 1992, the highest honor award by the ANC to those who have made an outstanding contribution and sacrifice to the liberation struggle. 2. National honors in the form of the Presidential Order for Meritorious Service, Class 1, Gold, from President Mandela in 1999. 3. Honorary doctorates from UNISA in 2013, from Rhodes University in 2018, from Durban University of Technology in 2018, from Cape Peninsula University of Technology in 2019. 4. Freedom of cities. The freedom of the city of Sidibeng in 2016. The freedom of the city of Johannesburg in 2016. The freedom of the city of London in 2018. Ntante Mlangeni is survived by his younger sister, Fedile, 2 daughters, Maureen and Sylvia, a son, Sello, 10 grandchildren, 12 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. Hambaga semutlokwa sithwalandwe siaparangwe. The nation mourns your departing. The memory will remain in the hearts and minds of the freedom and peace-loving peoples of the world.
Thank you very much, our brother Tsepo, for giving us a glimpse of a life well lived. Babu Mlangeni himself, when he spoke about his life, his birth, he said, born by the parents who were labor tenants in a labor tenancy system. From my conception, it was clear that I would be a farm worker. But he defied all odds. He didn't only look at how he could improve his life, nor the life of his immediate family, but he took the most sacrifice of making sure that he liberated all of us seated here today, our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and those who are still to be born. Talking on behalf of the family friends is Mr. Malusi Kekana. As he comes up, I just had a flash in my mind thinking of the generation of Babu Mlangeni and others. One thing about them, beyond the struggle, they were real gentlemen. Even their wives were ladies. If you just looked at some pictures, you will see that when they went to the meetings of the ANC or anywhere where they were supposed to go, they were either having their suits and ties, or even when they wore casually, they would actually have jerseys or jackets. So today we are actually saying farewell, in part to that generation. But they actually imparted that to the generation of today. I can see Malusi is also trying his best to make sure that he doesn't drop the ball. Over to you, Malusi.
Thank you, Program Director, Thabo, to President Ramaphosa, General Shoke, Comrade Panyaza, TG, the rest of the officials, fellow mourners, Professor Tlingiwe Mkize, family, friends, and relatives of Mlangeni, all protocol observed. I extend heartfelt revolutionary greetings to you, to Ndade Mlangeni's family, our Sylvia, Silo, Maureen, Didi Tlogolo, Humuchagang, Baba Roich. He has rested and will not feel any pain or experience any suffering anymore. Let's release him so that his soul may rest in peace. As we gather here, another revolutionary giant, Congressman John Lewis in America, has also passed away, and therefore wish to extend our condolences. May his soul rest in peace. Papa had met him. Many people might be surprised as to how, given our obvious vast age difference, can I be a friend to Ndade Mlangeni. I speak here on behalf of many men and women who befriended Ndade Mlangeni, either through politics, golf, the foundation, or as a neighbor. People such as Tumi Mahasa, Sello, Uncle Rasatava, Fikile Mbalula, Comrade Khalima Mutlante, Prajon Leduaba, and many more, who cared for and loved him as a friend, comrade, and mentor. He was a very versatile man in terms of the type of people he related to and valued those relations. He had a big, compassionate heart, and he would try to help everyone if he could. Were it not due to the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions, I am sure we would have filled Orlando Stadium to give a fitting send-off to this gallant giant of our revolution. Ndade Mlangeni appreciated people's progress in life. In fact, he would brag about a person's achievement as if it was his. He would not gossip or criticize people, and would take time to explain the facts and correct you. I was critical of one of our mutual friends as to why at this age he's not married. Papa took me into his confidence to explain what had happened to his marriage, his own involvement to try and salvage the marriage, he upheld the truth all the time. Mlangeni respected his tradition as an African man. Every time we opened a bottle of whiskey, he would always say, without fail, pour a small amount to the floor and thank his ancestors. That is, to my ancestors, I thank you and please drink with us. Even when we were sitting in a pub in London, he would do the same. Mlangeni believed in God, the Almighty. He saw in God the light and protection. 2 years ago, his son Silo, announced that he was very critical in hospital. I owed him some money as a refund for something he had paid for. So I used to tease him all the time and say, Mlangeni, you are old. Now, it is time for you to go. And he would complain to my mother, his children, my wife, that Malus is trying to kill me. From his hospital bed that time, he said, Papa, I'm not all right, but God is great. And I have faith and I hope that I will live. And when you owe me, when I get out of here, I'm going to beat the hell out of you. Such was his faith that he could be belligerent even when critically ill. I asked him, Papa, what drove you, Madiba and others, to be prepared to sacrifice your lives for freedom? He responded that God gives us inalienable rights when we are born. Everyone is born a free man. But society, due to bigotry and racism, takes away a man's freedom, which is the essence of life as given to you by God. So they came to the decision as comrades that there was no life worth living unless they had their freedom. That we would rather die fighting for than live without our freedom. People are making it a big issue about how he was critical of other people. As a chair of the Integrity Commission, he took all discussions as very confidential and would never share with us what was discussed. He didn't believe it was right to criticize people publicly because he viewed the Integrity Commission as an internal mechanism which was meant not only to unearth alleged corrupt or unethical behavior, but that it would also rehabilitate people. It is only after many months when he became frustrated because he came to realize that some of these people didn't take the Integrity Commission seriously and thus publicly started criticizing people. We discussed this change of posture for many hours. Being publicly critical was one of the most painful experiences that did not accord with his values. He got pushed into this position due to the inaction by the National Executive Committee of the ANC on implementing recommendations of the Integrity Commission. Mr. President, Mlangeni was a square in a round peg. He, like many veterans, don't fit into the culture of the ANC as a political party. The transition of the ANC from a liberation movement characterized by revolutionary morality to being a political party encumbered with the ability to dispense patronage and therefore the source of corruption has been a difficult transformation for many of these veterans. Mlangeni, despite his contribution, was not widely recognized. Not a street or building, at least to my knowledge, are named after him. And those things did not matter to him. If you wish to honor the memory of Mlangeni, I propose that, Mr. President, you spearhead a change of the ANC constitution to make the Integrity Commission an independent constitutional structure that does not report to the NEC, but to conference. These veterans are one of two strong pillars that is holding up our movement. The other pillar being the support we enjoy from our people. As people like Mlangeni go and taking the culture of virtuous leadership and honest politics, that pillar is weakening. And eventually the ANC will collapse unless we truly embrace their ways. Our people are also unhappy about the insidious ways of many in our leadership. To my generation, it is our time to take over our movement and lead it in the right direction to prevent it from collapsing. My friend, Papa, our lives will never be the same without you. I promise to lift your spear and continue with your journey. Don't worry about your family. We will remain with them forever as our own family. I love you dearly and thank you for everything that you have taught us and for the love you gave us. Robala ka kgotso, Motlokwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kekana. I will now ask Deputy Minister Hlengiwe Mkhize to come and speak on behalf of the Foundation, June and Andrew Mlangeni Foundation.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Fellow members, allow me to greet His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Africa, Ntate Cyril Ramaphosa. We are grateful, Ntate, that you are here today. On behalf of the June and Andrew Mlangeni Foundation, I think it's important to say we really appreciated the way you respected any call made on behalf of Ntate Mlangeni, especially his socials. Sometimes were not planned properly and we wouldn't be sure whether you'll avail yourself. But Ntate will show off and say, I knew he will do it. So that was really appreciated. We're grateful for the way you cared for him. Sure, the family. It has been a journey and a marathon, which from the time when Silo Le Osmorin shared with us that day is no more. But I must say to the family, you know, we, as the foundation, were grateful to the African National Congress. I'm happy that TG is here. The way they supported all the preparations, guided all of us, and ensured that we have this dignified day as we are having today. So, as you hear more about how much the people of South Africa respected and honored Ntate's courage, his commitment, and his dedication to the struggle that they sacrificed for. I'm glad there are other trustees who are here. I've seen one, Fikile. I wouldn't say Ntate Fikile when Bontate Baliteng Fikile. Fikile Mbalula, our minister, is here, and also other ministers like Minister Mthembu, Jackson Mthembu is here, and of course the leadership of Gauteng has welcomed all of us well. My task really now is just to emphasize that this June and Andrew Mlangeni Foundation is Ntate's own creation. Ntate made a special effort to say, Bona as the family, Lime June, they will build this for the development of people. And sometimes, I think as the other trustee, Emma Luce, has reflected, there will be a confusion about the role of the foundation against what was being done in society in general. So it's a foundation which is part of the sacrifice of this family, Mlangeni. It was started by May June, it was a way of engaging with the community and reporting whenever he had visited Ntate at the Robben Island. But above everything, when Tate Mlangeni came out, emphasized issues of development. And later, as he was getting recognition from different institutions of higher learning, he took it back to empowerment of the youth in line with his commitment to sports. We haven't, unpacked his commitment to sports, especially golf, as a way of building the character of young people and general discipline. Another important point which is important to flag about the foundation, because we'll need a lot of support and guidance, is that Tate Mlangeni didn't see his foundation as a critique of the ANC. He really believed that the ANC is his home. He didn't want the foundation to be like an analytic instrument to judge what was working and what was not working. But he postured it as a moral compass which will assist people to remember where they come from. For Ntate Mlangeni, keeping the memory was sacrosanct. It was not about the words of how we greeted each other, how we saluted each other, how we ran our conferences, but it was about going back to the basics as to why did they make such major sacrifices of leaving the families they loved, they cared for, and prepared to die away from them. So that's another element which I think as a foundation we'll have to continue with and find a way of striking the independence of the foundation, but also of cooperating with his founding home, because that will be him. Also, the other element which was important for Ndate was the element of ethical leadership. It's going to be a task and a half for us as a foundation to continue in that and to do it in an able and capable manner. But I'm glad that many people throughout the week have spoken to that, issues of integrity and also the ethics of people who are suitable to be public representatives in particular. It's not an easy task to continue to talk about, to pursue, but it's important. I think that's the responsibility we have if we're to honor his memory, to ensure that we keep on being vocal and clear about what will be acceptable and not acceptable to him. And of course, for the family, I think it's important also to continue pursuing unity and ensuring that whatever decision is taken, there is consensus that will be the respect that they will appreciate as he kept everybody together and informed. Program director, I know the few minutes I have are limited, but allow me just to take a few words from Maya Angelou, which I think will be a way of saying that nothing has changed. You remain our commissar in everything we do. When I think of death, and of late the idea has come with alarming frequency, I seem at peace with the idea that a day will dawn when I will no longer be among those living in this valley of strange humors. I can accept the idea of my own demise, but I'm unable to accept the death of anyone else. I find it impossible to let a friend or relative go into that country of no return. Disbelief becomes my door's companion, and anger follows in its wake. I answer the heroic question, death, where is thy sting? With it is here in my heart and mind and memories. Tate, we will always be in our heart. Ra leboga.
Thank you very much. We will now have a tribute by former President Thabo Mbeki.
Thank you very much, Program Director and President Sir Ramaphosa, the Mlangeni family and fellow mourners. First of all, let me convey my sincere condolences to the Mlangeni family at the departure of indeed a person who was very outstanding. Very sad indeed, because only last month we were celebrating his birthday and wishing him many more years, genuinely wishing him many more years. But my sincere condolences. But I must also say thank you very much, President, for doing this, we're taking this very important decision to declare this a special official funeral. Because indeed, I think our leader, Comrade Andrew Mlangeni, is that kind of person who deserved exactly this kind of funeral. Since he passed away, even now as at this memorial service, many people have spoken very correctly in tribute to him about his contribution to his struggle, about his value system, about his character. Indeed, as I'm saying, even now during the course of this memorial service, these correct tributes have been paid. I'm saying that a program director because it won't be necessary for me to repeat all of that. But I must say that because of who he was, this kind of person that all of us describing, this kind of leader we're describing, this very moral person that even Mbeki has just spoken about. He was very concerned about his movement, the ANC, movement that he and others built over many decades, and very concerned about what is happening in our country with regard to the revolution for which he sacrificed his life. And indeed, he had very good cause to be concerned, because I'm sure all of us will recall one of the important messages that came out of the 54th National Conference of the ANC, where it said, for instance, that there's a loss of confidence in the ANC because of social distance, of corruption, nepotism, arrogance, elitism, factionalism, manipulating organizational principles, abusing state power, putting self-interest above the people. And it said even the strongest ANC supporters agree that the sins of incumbency are deeply entrenched. I'm saying indeed, as the ANC itself observed, it was natural that our leader, Comrade Mlangeni, would be concerned about the ANC. We normally say, quite correctly, as we must say today, when people like him depart, that their spirit lives on, that would emulate their legacy, that they should rest in peace. I think because we are talking here, laying to rest this particular person, this particular distinguished patriot, this distinguished revolutionary, Andrew Mlangeni, I think we must say those words with meaning, with conviction, that indeed he should rest in peace, that we should emulate his example, that his spirit would live on. And I think for us to say those things with feeling, with meaning, with seriousness, it must be because we then say to ourselves, we are saying those things because we are committing ourselves to the renewal of the ANC, the renewal of this ANC which he built, the renewal of this ANC about which he was concerned. Therefore, that as we say, rest in peace, we say rest in peace because we will attend to this challenge. Because indeed, I think that it will not be possible to deal with all of these various challenges that our country faces, including matters of ethical leadership, such as which Mbeki has just spoken about, unless we renew the ANC, indeed, as was called for by that 54th National Conference. And I think if we do that and really seriously attend to this would be a very, very good farewell and a very good memory, a very good monument to such an outstanding person, such an outstanding revolutionary, such an outstanding leader as Andrew Mlangeni was. So calls have been made, for instance, that should be called, they should be constituted, the ANC should constitute a consultative conference specifically to look at this matter of its renewal. We need that renewal of the ANC so that the ANC can then discharge its responsibility towards the people, discharge its responsibility towards the nation and the continent, and allow the old man and Mlangeni to rest in peace. Communicate to him that indeed we honor his legacy, and communicate to him the message that the spirit lives on. It should live on because the ANC which he built would be the kind of ANC that he said we need. That would help us to overcome the challenges that our country faces. But sincere condolences to the Mlangeni family, and thank you very much to everybody for attending and for the tributes that have been paid. But Robert Gakhotso, our leader, our comrade, Mutoko. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lucas Leduaba to pay tribute on behalf of the Leduaba family.
Thank you, Program Director. All honorables, His Excellency President Ramaphosa, General Ministers, MECs, Executive Mayor, please do allow me to say protocol observed. Nkhulule Siba, Dibeka Mlaeto Mantebele. I find myself standing here about to speak for a family with tens who could provide a befitting tribute to you, Ramkhulu. Finding myself stuttering as I try to find a blanket of words that expresses our gratitude that God blessed us with time. Time spent with laughter, love, sad moments, and selected moments with you that each of us can now stand here and describe it as mine. Some of us were not born when you teed off in the journey of servitude. Some of the Leduabas were with you as you journeyed through the course that is the struggle. From hole to hole, trial to trial. The tide of change did come. Guess we can say that was hole 9. Can't say cloud 9 because you're a golfer. And that was when you were home. A second chapter where we got to build all of these beautiful memories. A chapter with plenty of experiences from then on. Hole 11, we got to lay Mamkhulu June to rest. A chapter that many tend to separate from their marital family, but not you. You embodied integrity and servitude to the T, pun intended. You charted each presiding hole with us, birthdays, graduations, first kids, burials, weddings. A chapter where the family can now stand here and salute you as your last hole has been played. But your lessons, principles, love and discipline will always remain. Mamkhulu June, ndoda yakho isendleleni kuwe, mudimale baballe. Somgolo, mandebele aleboga, lethando lakho, thobela ke nkhutsho. Shatakani Mantebele, Shatakani. To the nation at large, a silent giant is at rest. His legacy is one of integrity and servitude. We are left with a challenge not only to us as children, but all of us as society to connect with these two principles, so to chart our country forward with pride. My uncle was never one for the glamour and believed that let your work speak for itself. So in conclusion, let's build this country with minimal complaints, for no one will come and do it for us. To the backroom boy, rest in peace.
Siyabonga mfowethu uLucas Leduaba. Ngizawucela manje ozomela umndeni wakamlangeni uMe Matefu Mlangeni. We will now have Me Matefu Mlangeni to speak on behalf of the Mlangeni family and pay her tribute. Uzawukhuluma khona lapha emikhona.
O hlahetse seterekeng sa Bethlehem, o hlahetse dipolasing. Ke ka hona e ile re ha abuti ha bona dipolasing kwana ho no ho le thata hoba e ne re ha re batla kofi re ne re fuwa ka mabekere a dikontasembeleke ho thwe re ja moo ho no sena dikopi re ne re nwella mabekereng ano e re tsholle kontasembeleke ha re qeta re re nwa ka ona re nwa tee ke a leboha Mlangeni o entse ntho e kgolo a tswa ka hara lefatshe la Bethlehem a kena ka hara Gauta a etsa ntho tse ntle a re lokolla tokollong mona re fasuwe teng o sebeditse Mlangeni lefatshe lena o le sebeleditse le rona o re sebeleditse ba ha Mlangeni ke buella bana ba abuti moeti Andrew Mlangeni bana ba abuti o sebeditse le bone mosebetsi ya o sebeditseng le rona re tla nne re sa le go bona le bana ba rona o sebeditse Mlangeni a tsamaya ka khotso re mo lokolle a ye ho bontate mola rona tsamaya hantle Mlangeni wa heso e tle re ha o fihla kwana o ba bolelle go so o fihlile ba tle ba o kgahlametse tsamaya hantle Mlangeni ke a o lokolla ke re tsamaya hantle Mlangeni wa sotlela maila gare motho a sa je sengwatelana sa maobane tsamaya hantle motlokwa o sebeditse amen.
Sibonga kakhulu mama ngokusiphelezela isithwalando sethu ubaba Mlangeni umhaye ngezithopho nangezilokotho zakubo umkhulule umnikezele kwelamathongo as you bid him farewell and handing him over to his ancestors you gave the message on what he must say as he arrives there. Can we have a musical item of Milonji Kantu? Thank you very much. We will now have a tribute by the grandchildren, Memory and Mpumi Mlangeni. abazokhulumela isizukulwane. Umkhulu ubebanika amaswidi namashwamshwam abanye bengabuyi.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I'd like to greet you all in the name of the Mlangeni family. We were born when he was in prison. The first time we saw him was a very happy day. I saw a strong man and a healthy person. Growing up as a naughty boy, I was always told that when Umkhulu returns, he's going to beat me up. I visited him in Postmo prison for the first time, and I was very scared to get inside the room where he was, until my grandmother pushed me inside. And I saw him opening his arms and gave me a big hug. And he was very concerned about our education and made sure that we all finish schooling. The giant has fallen and left a big hole in our family. Hamba kahle mkhulu. Hamba kahle madala. Hamba kahle mkhonto. We will always love you. May your soul rest in peace. I thank you.
I had initially prepared something, but I think it's only fair that I talk about who Umkhulu was, because I knew him when he came out of prison, which means I was about 5 years old or 4. Since then, I've been with him until he actually kicked me out of his house when I was 31. You need to leave my house because now you're a woman. Umkhulu used to drop me and Tuli off at school every single day, not unless he had things to do in Parliament or he was traveling. Umkhulu always pushed us to be and to stand proud of who we are. There was a CD we used to play in the car. We even named it CD number 4. Tuli, don't cry. Papa was the best. He meant everything to all of us, his grandchildren, his great-grandchildren. He gave us time. He listened to us. When you had a problem, uye kumkhulu, Papa, omkhulu, nayinkinga ngibhekane nayo. Uzakuhlalisa phansi and guide you, give you facts, make you understand. Mkhulu wasn't a hugger, but when he spoke to you, you would feel hugged and loved and warm. We have received a lot of messages from around the world. People have spoken about Mkhulu, about his courage, his integrity, and his strength. He's all of those things for a simple reason. Mkhulu is love. He radiated love. He loved people. He loved humanity. He loved all of us as his grandchildren. I say love because love was his sacrifice for our country and our future. Love was his courage to protect his comrades. Love was his marriage to Gogo. Love was his golf, as you can see. Love was his Mercedes-Benz. Love was our gossips, our laughter, our cryings, our fightings, our joy. Mkhulu was caring. He was kind and thoughtful, not only for his children or his grandchildren, but for our community, especially in Dube. Mkhulu worked for everyone. The stories of Mkhulu, they all begin with his absence. But for the past 31 years, he's been present to all of us. Mkhulu is everything. A 95-year-old was actually my best friend. His love is like air to me. It makes everything possible. For the past couple of days, I've been asking myself, how am I going to breathe without air? How is life going to be possible without him? I then remember love. That's what he was. That's what I'll carry with me. That's what we all should carry with us. I see his love in those committing themselves to a truly free and an honest South Africa, which of course he loved so much and never gave up on. Mkhulu was love. Papa, I love you today, tomorrow, and forever. Go rest. We will be okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Memory and Bumi, for that moving tribute. Indeed, Mkhulu was love. I will now ask Ms. Sylvia and Butsilo Mlangeni to come and pay tribute to Mkhulu, to Baba. Program Director, President Ramaphosa, Ministers gathered here, and everybody else, all protocol observed. I am shivering as I'm standing here. I don't know whether it's stage fright or I'm feeling cold. But my heart is cold. Nevertheless, on behalf of Banavanta Mlangeni Morin, my sister, and Silo, all is well. This shall come to pass. Papa was a loving person, but at the same time, he was someone
that we all went to when we had problems, as Mpumi had said. Sometimes when you go to him with a problem, it's out cheaper. That was our father. We shared him with the whole South Africa. He was not a father to us only, but a father to everyone. A father that we shared with the nation. It is difficult to console yourself when you are in pain. We have received messages of support, and they did a lot for us. We feel consoled, we are strong, and all we need to do is to celebrate his life. Maureen and Silo and grandchildren, great-grandchildren, let us be strong for him. Let us all celebrate his life. He has lived a beautiful life, a fulfilling life. We will dearly miss him. We loved him, we love you, Papa. O re dumedisetse go bonkgono le bontatemoholo, o se o kopane le mme le Aubrey, be our ancestor e nang le pelo e ntle, o re shebe, o re ka nako tsohle you guide us. When you go astray, o re kenye mo tseleng. Re tshepile wena le mme gore le mena le rona le re shebe re le bana ba rona. I don't have much to say. I cannot talk about his political history because it has already been said. We are really in pain, but this shall come to pass. Thank you.
So, Program Director. Thank you, Program Director. His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, and His Excellency, former President Thabo Mbeki, and the ministers who are here, the MEC Panyaza, General Shoke of the South African National Defence Force. Allow me to say all protocol observed. I would like to thank the President for, giving my father, our father, a befitting funeral. I think he deserved it. Thank you, President. Dear Papa, we are gathered here today to bid you farewell. It is exceedingly difficult to accept that I won't be seeing you every morning as I used to, or hear your home voice. Your untimely death has left me devastated. You have, during your entire life, wholeheartedly committed to serve all the people of South Africa, black and white. Quietly, without fanfare, but with an irreducible core of principle, integrity, courage, and with good sense of humor. You took great pride in being the backroom boy because you knew that leaders are not defined not by titles, but by actions. You have demonstrated the highest level of dedication, principle, discipline when we are fighting for our freedom. Despite your prominence and seniority, you were always accessible to ordinary people. I have witnessed many times you played a role of a social worker, People from different parts of South Africa used to come to you for advice and assistance. People used to come with all sorts of problems to you, and you always did your best to help them. That was the kind of man you are. You have never taken, say you didn't have time to help whoever comes to you. You did it, and you'll do it immediately. If you know someone who can help, if you cannot help, you used to take a phone call whoever it is, I have somebody, can you please assist? That was the kind of man you were. You have known, you are known for your resilience against human adversity, calmness in the face of personal turbulences, and resolve, disposition, and conviction to conquer one's fear in order to carry the burden of others. After your release from prison, you threw yourself once again, boots and all, to the struggle to end apartheid. You continue to serve your people with humanity, excellency, and distinction. Your track record in defense of human rights and dignity still inspire both old and young all over the world. There were years in which we feared we will never truly have the opportunity to know you as a father, or as a grandfather, or as a great-grandfather, and as a man. To have you back with us for almost 30 years has been the greatest blessing to us as a family. Your untimely death has left us shattered. We just celebrated your birthday not long ago, and we are physically strong and mentally strong as well. So I was hoping that we're still going to have you for some more years to come. But unfortunately, here we are today, bidding you farewell. Papa, you are the soul of the family. You may have passed on, but your soul lives in each of us. And as days pass and life continues, we know fully well the moments in which you'll joke, make jokes with us, and those in which you will challenge us to do our best, most courageous selves, and those in which you would show your love for us through your gesture, a word or a kindness that distinguishes you. We take comfort in knowing that you'll be reuniting with your lovely wife, your loving wife, our mother, June Joanna Mlangeni, the pillar of our family and the love of your heart. You will also be reuniting with your old comrades who have departed before you, your Rivonia trialist, and other leaders of the ANC that have departed. You have sacrificed much of your life with her and us for a free South Africa, in which the essentially humanity of all the people and will be acknowledged and have the opportunity to flourish. We are so proud of your contribution you have made to this country. We know you will have done it again without question. You wouldn't have doubt that you'll be ready to carry the spear again and go back to prison if it needs be, because you love that country, your country and your people. We hope that your life may serve as inspiration and guidance to everyone to see that we all have a responsibility to carry our shared future and that of everyone. Every voice has value, and even if it is the one of a backroom boy. Though we will miss you deeply, we are so grateful for the joy, the strength, and love you gave us that will never be dimmed. I have lost not only a father, I have lost a good friend, a comrade, a fellow golfer, my advisor, my confidant, and a very good close friend. Papa, we love you. You have run your race, Mklokwa. Robala ka kgotso Mklokwa. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Butsilo and Sylvia, for the tribute you have made to your father, our grandfather, Tata Mlangeni. I will now ask the Johannesburg and KwaZulu-Natal Philharmonic Orchestra, conducted by Bongani Tembe, to give us one musical item. May we all rise as we ask our President His Excellency President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, the President of the Republic of South Africa, the President of the African National Congress, to give us an eulogy as he bid farewell to Tata Mlangeni on behalf of the government, on behalf of all South Africans. President.
Program Director, the Mlangeni and Leduaba families, former President Thabo Mbeki, ministers and deputy ministers, the chairperson of the June and Andrew Mlangeni Foundation, Deputy Minister Thengiwe Mkhize, a representative of the Premier of Gauteng, MEC Panyaza Lesufi, Mayor of Johannesburg, Mr. Jeffrey Makubu, the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, and the leadership of the African National Congress, General Shoke, and the leadership of the SANDF, relatives and friends, and fellow mourners. It is indeed with heavy hearts that we gather here this morning to bid a final farewell to our dear father, grandfather, great-grandfather, leader, and comrade, Isithwalandwe Siaparangwe, Andrew Moketi Mweti Mlangeni. As we gather here, we are indeed consumed with grief as we mourn the passing of an icon of our struggle. Yet we are also here to celebrate the extraordinary life of a hero of our struggle for freedom and democracy. In the many profound tributes that have been delivered over the past week by a number of people, both here and abroad, the overriding sentiment has been that his passing marks the end of an era. He belonged to an era of tireless struggle, of sacrifice and service, of honor and integrity. It was an era of leaders who embodied the best in humanity. Andrew Mlangeni, as we have heard, was among the very first recruits of Umkhonto weSizwe, the People's Army that fought for liberation. And of course, he was the last surviving Rivonia trialist. He was also the last to testify at that trial. He was given the gift of time that his fellow Rivonia trialists were not. But he was also one of the last of extraordinary generation of freedom fighters. The black, green, and gold colors of his movement, the African National Congress, flowed through the veins of our departed leader. He served his movement and his country loyally for over 7 decades. The struggle for freedom and democracy was his life. And the freedom that we enjoy today is his legacy to us. He was a product of the golden age of our struggle, when sacrifice and commitment to freedom was the only consideration that motivated leaders to be involved in the struggle. He belonged to the era when leaders were even prepared to die for the struggle for freedom. It was just a few weeks ago that we laid to rest his dear friend and comrade, Isithwalandwe Siaparangwe, Dennis Goldberg. To lose both of them in such quick succession is indeed a blow. The great cohort to which they belonged is now in full complement in the celestial realm. They join their comrades Nelson Mandela, Govan Mbeki, Walter Sisulu, Oliver Tambo, Raymond Mhlaba, Elias Mutsaledi, Albertina Sisulu, Ahmed Kathrada, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, and many others. We are sad to have lost our father, our grandfather, our great-grandfather, but we are also grateful as a nation for God's providence in enabling Tate Mlangeni to make old bones, as they say. We are reminded in the scriptures that gray hair is a crown of splendor and is attained in the way of righteousness. The Mlangeni family deeply mourns their father, who was the pillar of the family, as we have heard. The family, like those of other prisoners, suffered immensely during his years of imprisonment. The spirit of resilience saw the Mlangeni family through much more pain than many of us will ever know. For children to have grown up without their father, who was languishing on an island, is quite a lot of pain to go through. But through the faithfulness and support of his wife, the late Mejun Mlangeni, Baba Mlangeni led his family from inside and outside prison, instilling in them courage and conviction. In paying tribute to him this day, we also pay tribute to Umama Ujun Mlangeni and to the family for their sacrifices. We pay tribute to Mem Mlangeni for her activism and her leadership. It was she who was instrumental in mobilizing women in and around Dube, in Soweto, to participate in the 1955 women's protest in the streets of downtown Johannesburg, and in the famous 1956 anti-pass march to the Union buildings. It was Umama Ujun Mlangeni who endured police harassment and was placed under house arrest several times over the period of her husband's imprisonment. As this remarkable couple belonged together in life, so shall they forever remain together in our remembrance of them. While history will place Andrew Mlangeni in the pantheon of the great leaders of our nation, he will be remembered by his people as a person of humility, of humanity, and dignity. I saw his humility at close range when I was Secretary General of the African National Congress and saw how he deported himself towards members not only of the ANC, but also our people as a whole. He will be remembered for his kindness, his boundless optimism, and for his mischievous humor as well. There was no task that Ubaba Mlangeni would not undertake in the service of the struggle, and no responsibility that he would ever evade. As an activist in the Young Communist League, as the leader of the ANC Dube branch, and later secretary for the Soweto region, he was known as someone who sought to build unity and consensus at all times. He was known as someone who would draw others into the fold through engagement and persuasion. In prison, he made up for the opportunity he lacked outside and acquired 2 university degrees. He served our democratic parliament with great distinction. In the committees in which he served and led, he did so with diligence and also with wisdom. He pursued the building of a new, united nation with the same fervor and conviction that led him to join the armed struggle, to risk fortune and death, and to place his life in the hands of the people. Just as he fought to end that crime against humanity, so too would he take up the fight against inequality and poverty that continues to deny so many of our people so much of their humanity. In his statement during the Rivonia trial, he said, "South Africa, my Lord," as he addressed the judge, "is a very rich country. The resources could be exploited for the benefit of all who live in it. This government and the previous governments have exploited not the earth, but the people of various racial groups whose color is not white." Close quotes. Until he drew his last breath, it was his firm and unwavering determination to ensure that the plentiful resources of our country would be used for the benefit of all its people. It was his firm and unwavering determination that no person should claim domination over another, that no woman should be subordinated to any man, and that no child should fear abuse or hunger or discrimination. To the last, he fought for a society founded on the principles of equality and solidarity. We have lost not only a great patriot, but also a strident moral voice. Andrew Mlangeni was never afraid to confront the vices that can too easily engulf a nation emerging from a broken past. Just as he dedicated his life to ending the corruption of the human soul that apartheid typified, so too would he speak out against the greed and the avarice that threatened to erode our hard-won democracy. Always faithful to the principles of his movement, the African National Congress, always true to its revolutionary discipline, he understood his responsibility to challenge the abuse of power and also the plunder of public resources. He understood his responsibility to remind us of the solemn commitment we have made to future generations and would not hesitate to tell us when we fell short or when we faltered. He would not be coward, and he was not a person to be silenced. When the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress asked him to lead the Integrity Commission, it had seen in him a leader who was the repository of the ethical leadership of the ANC. He took that position because he believed that leaders of the ANC should represent the best of ethical behavior and should know that our people expect that they should always be judged by a higher standard of ethical behavior. And so, if his passing does indeed mark the end of an era, we must ask ourselves the question, what now? What shall define this new era, our era? Will it be an era of adherence to the values of his glorious movement? Revolutionary ethics, revolutionary discipline? Will it be an era and an age of increasing prosperity and security for all? Will it represent the realization of the dream of the Freedom Charter and of a country that truly belongs to all who live in it, black and white? Will it witness the emergence of a new generation of young leaders, women and men of extraordinary talent, of extraordinary integrity and adherence to the best of values, who are resolved, who are dedicated to serve their people? This is a question to which all of us who are gathered here, whether in person or virtually or in spirit, should be held to answer. It is through our actions that we will define this new era, an era that Ubaba Mlangeni leaves behind. It is through the principles that we observe, the values that we hold dear, and through the responsibilities that we each take upon ourselves, that we will be able to forge a new society. Let us draw guidance and inspiration from the lives of Ubaba Andrew Mlangeni and the great leaders of his age. Let us honor their courage and their sacrifices by being conscientious in our conduct and honorable in our intentions. As they did, let us place the needs and the interests of our people at the center of our every policy, of our every strategy, and of every decision, and of our every act. We bid farewell to Babu Mlangeni at a time of great peril in our country and our world. A virus is sweeping the globe, causing widespread disruption and destruction. COVID-19 has cost many lives, and before it runs its course, it will take many more. It has cast into sharp focus the deep divisions within our societies and our nation, exposing the many ways in which inequality and injustice manifests themselves. The coronavirus pandemic has not rendered the fight against poverty and unemployment any less urgent. If anything, it has revealed how important the fundamental transformation of our economy and our society is for human health and well-being. This pandemic must bring us to action. It must heighten our ambition and our deep resolve. It is nearly 60 years since Mlangeni and his comrades made a bold and audacious statement to the world. And they said, open quotes, "The time comes in the life of any nation where there remain only two choices, submit or fight. That time has now come to South Africa. We shall not submit, and we have no choice but to hit back by all means within our power in defense of our people, our future, and our freedom," close quotes. These words may belong to another era, but their significance resonates across the decades. We are once again faced with a choice to submit or to fight. Let us declare here in honor and in memory of Andrew Mlangeni that we will not submit. We will not submit to coronavirus. We will defeat it. But let us also declare that we will not submit to poverty and inequality. We should also be bold enough to say we will not submit to corruption and greed, to mismanagement and complacency, and to the abuse of public resources. We will not submit to gender-based violence and femicide. We will not submit to the destruction of our planet, to the neglect of our children. We will not submit to despair and despondency or cynicism. We have no choice but to fight. To fight for equality and justice, for water and electricity and food in every home, for land to farm and factories to run, for quality health care, for decent education, for peace and safety. We have to fight for honest, committed and capable leaders, for democratic institutions that are strong and durable, for equality between men and women, for the rule of law and the realization of equal rights for all. For it is then, when we are engaged in this struggle, that we will pay our beloved father, leader, friend, and comrade the great and the most enduring tribute. Andrew Mlangeni has departed from this world, but his legacy, his values, and his struggle lives on in each of us. His commitment goes beyond what was expected of him as an ANC member, and his memory will be deeply embedded in the hearts of many South Africans for a long, long time to come. He will be missed, but what he stood for will definitely not be forgotten. It is now our solemn responsibility to strive together, sparing neither courage nor strength, to build the glorious future to which he dedicated his life. Baba Mlangeni has gone home now. Let us release him to go home, guided by a commitment to freedom and by the lives of those who have preceded him. And we say today that may his soul rest in peace. Hamba kahle Mkhonto. Tsamaya ka kgotso Mohlokwa. We will always remember you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our President, for that moving tribute, a eulogy to Tata Mlangeni. Like 2 Timothy verse 4, I am sure Tata Mlangeni is saying to us, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. The Lord will repay him for what he has done. Indeed, seated here were the witnesses of what he has done to ensure that our country is free until the last day. He was a soldier until the end. I will ask now, as I hand over to the military, one of the members of the Defense Force to come and hand over the certificate of appointment as Honorary Colonel Ubaba Mlangeni, who he was, and the regiment that was named after him. Can I ask the member of the Defense Force who has been tasked to do that work, and also ask Chaplain General Jamangile to come up on stage.
Program Director, the Mlangeni family, the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, and all protocol observed. Firstly, may I express the condolences of the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, the entire command structure, and the men and women of the Defense Force to the family of the late Colonel Andrew Mlangeni. We in the Defense Force, we too mourn the passing of a great South African. The South African National Defense Force has honored Andrew Mlangeni in two ways. First, by naming a military unit after him. The South African Irish Regiment in Johannesburg was renamed as the Andrew Mlangeni Regiment. Secondly, he was appointed with the recommendation of the Minister of Defense as the Honorary Colonel of the South African Army Headquarters Unit. This is an indication of the high regard in which the Defence Force held Colonel Dr. Andrew Mlangeni for his substantial contribution in bringing democracy to South Africa. The appointment of an honorary colonel is an old military tradition whereby the honorary title of colonel is conferred on a prominent person. Regiments or units may have an honorary colonel, which is solely a ceremonial rank that can also be held by a civilian with no military service. The Minister of Defence and Military Veterans, Ms. Mapisang Makula, announced Andrew Mlangeni's appointment to Honorary Colonel of the South African Army Headquarters Unit on the 16th of March 2020. It was then also mentioned by the Chief of the Defence Force, General Shoke, that the members of the Defence Force are privileged to welcome him to the larger Defence Force and SA Army family. He also mentioned that we rejoice in the fact that his credentials as a struggle hero and lifelong advocate of improving the lives of ordinary South Africans will engender unity and esprit de corps within the South African Army and the greater South African Defence Force. I want to call upon the Chief of the Defence Force, General Solly Shoke, to hand over the certificate of appointment as Honorary Colonel to the family of the late Colonel Mlangeni.
Thank you very much. On behalf of the Mlangeni family, the Leduaba family, the President representing the government of South Africa, I would like to thank all of you who are here, who participated in this farewell of Utata Mlangeni, and those of you who are at home for having taken a moment to participate in this ceremony. I will now hand over to Chaplain Jamangile to conduct the service and also take forward to the Army on the responsibility that they have. I thank you very much.
Commander-in-Chief, permission to conduct the service. I thank you. To our Commander-in-Chief, His Excellency the President, to the Mlangeni family, to the former President, Thabo Mbeki, to all our national leaders, to the Commander of the Armed Forces in the Republic, General Soli Shoke, to all our dignitaries that have come to mourn with us this morning. My Honorable Bishop, Bishop Takhale, and Father Petrus Shia, thank you for the opportunity. To the people of the land, for the next few minutes, allow me to read the following scripture lesson as I recognize all the expressions of faith that are watching this service. And we rejoice in the hope of the glory of God, and hope. And that hope that does not disappoint us, because God poured his love into our hearts by his Spirit, whom he has given us. For our eulogy at this homegoing celebration service of the life and times of Isitwalandwe Mlangeni, the honorary colonel in the SANDF. Here is one of the great lyrics passage in which the servant of the Lord almost sings an intimate joy of his confidence in God. We rejoice in the hope of the glory of God, and hope does not disappoint us. Therefore, leaders are dealers in hope. Leaders are dealers in hope. Leaders suffer, and they suffer well, and are very rare, because most people try to avoid suffering. Thabo Mlangeni was a classical leader who inspired and instilled hope even amidst his own suffering. He did so at the time when our country was in infamy, when intense persecution and oppression was the order of the day. The passing of Thabo Mlangeni marks the end of an era that carried a long set of values, that these are the attributes that set him, rises and falls on leadership. It was one of the military commanders who once said to his officers, after the winter military disaster, which invoked a lot of disappointment, despair, and discontent, in the rank and file of his armed forces. He said, leaders are dealers in hope. Uba Mlangeni adhered to the dictum that there is nothing in this world that we can't conquer together. He was totally committed to his quest to be God's agent of change in society. After the pattern of Christ, he led by example and precept. He was eloquent, yet gracious. He was intelligent, yet humble. In addition to his intelligence, he had wisdom, yet humble. He was blessed with intelligence, and therefore he had the faculty of logic and reason. Because of this logic, he could adapt to new and many times uncontrollable circumstances and conditions. As I conclude, Mlangeni was a leader's leader. No matter what difficult was thrown at him, he handled it. He was a natural leader who understood how to influence others. He knew that everything rises and falls on leadership. He was a true dealer in hope. Martin Luther King says, an individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. He further goes on and says, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Our hope is built on nothing else than God's righteousness. We dare not trust the sweetest frame, but wholly lean on our Lord as Utatu Mlangeni. His Lord was a solid rock. He stood. All other ground is a sinking sand. Uba Mlangeni, his hope was founded on God. God who has done many things for us. And that God, the very foundation of our hope, who gave us free and freedom that is undeserved, an offer of forgiveness and fellowship that God always offers to us. This hope is born when we discover that we do not earn salvation but receive it. And it is through this hope that Tatu Mlangeni says to us today, we glory in tribulation and we triumph even in our troubles. Finally, the ambition of Istwalandwe and his comrades has been to wipe every tear from every eye. That may be beyond us, but as long as there are tears and sufferings, so long our work will not be over, because all of us, to a large degree, are dealers in hope. Let the spirit of the just live long. God bless you all. I thank you. As we proceed with our military honors, I am going to read the names of the bearers as follows. Warrant Officer Gcina Mkhonto. Warrant Officer Reed. Warrant Officer Jack. Warrant Officer Mahungela. Warrant Officer Base. Warrant Officer Tlacheng. Warrant Officer Adams. Warrant Officer King. Warrant Officer in charge of bearers, Master Warrant Officer Sibutsa.
As the cortege leaves, to be followed by the family, the president, Premier Representative MEC Lesufi, and all those who are going to go to the cemetery, where the next part of the service will commence.